And we've started. Henry's ahead of time. You go, Henry. Hey, everybody. Turn on my favorite song in the world. Nikki Burnett here, Taste Life Nutrition Radio. We are streaming live here on KUHS Denver. See, I'm messing stuff up already. KUHSdenver.com. Henry's back there, always taking care of me. And, when I mess things up, like I do on every show, he just fixes it for me. So we want to, turn this down now. We want to talk a little bit today about abundance. And there's so much in this, and so much that is key to what life is about, and to our attitude, and to about who we are. And so if you're joining the show for the first time, I'm a functional nutritionist. My practice is Taste Life Nutrition. And my goal in us bringing you this show is to really find what the truth is out there. And I'm going to tell you that the one single truth that I found about everybody, no matter what, is that we're all different. And so we have to be treated as such, and we have to be looked at as such, and we have to address our lives and our concerns and each other and our history and our traumas and all of these things as the unique individuals that we are. So we can take those and then build on that and just become the bigger, better human, the successful human, the best human that we can be. And so when I find people who are really, looking at life in this holistic approach, these are the people who I like to bring on board. They have their specialties, and of course I have my specialty in nutrition, but it's so important for us to have the ability, the capability of looking at some of these other things that maybe we don't even think about. And so today we have on Jennifer Bloom. Thank you, Jennifer, so much for being here. I'm so grateful for you taking a little bit of time.
Well, Nikki, I'm really excited to be here. Looking forward to the conversation.
Yeah, it'll be fun. So just in case you saw the marketing, we were going to have Miss Jennifer Urezio, and unfortunately, she broke her ankle yesterday. I'm like, it just breaks my heart. My husband broke his ankle several years ago, and it was awful. And there's trauma in and of just hearing about broken ankles. So poor thing, she is going to be moving through that. But so she's about learning your soul language. And when she recommended Jennifer Bloom, it was kind of a similar path. But you, Jennifer, specialize more in sort of the abundance, the money mindset. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's right. At the core, it's the same in that we have a relationship with money, and part of that relationship with money is our relationship with ourselves. And we also have a relationship with the divine. And if we don't understand about who we really are, then it's really hard to be in the space of that relationship. So Jennifer Urezio is a teacher, mentor of mine. I am a soul language practitioner. That is her paradigm. I love her to pieces. And but I've taken her soul language and apply it out into the world of abundance.
Nice. I love it. So speaking of abundance, first thing that we want to do, as always, when we start the show, is practice a little gratitude. And so we have so much to be grateful for, and I think it's really important to take those things, start our day, end our day with gratitude. If you can write it down, just sit in it and be happy for it, because we need a lot of happiness right now. So Jennifer, what are you grateful for?
I got a really long list, but I'll keep it short.
That's awesome.
So, first of all, I'm grateful for the turning of the seasons. It's fall. It's my absolute favorite season of the year. Fantastic sleeping weather. And I am also, quite honestly, I am grateful today for modern medicine and for my vet who could fit my dog in this morning on an hour's notice. Poor thing was out 5 times last night. She's got a bladder infection. She's on her road to recovery, and with everything that's been going on, it's been hard to get into the vet, and they just got us right in today. So, grateful to my vet.
Yeah. So I can't help but to be the nutritionist that I am and throw in here that I'm assuming they put her on antibiotics. Is that correct?
That is correct.
So what you might think about doing, especially if this is a frequent occurrence, if this is kind of a chronic thing, D-mannose is one of the best things for humans. And I mean, it has changed the lives of my clients, my women clients who have these chronic bladder infections. You can give it to your dog too. It's a component of cranberry, and it works so well. However it works is interesting to me because it doesn't allow for bacteria to adhere to the lining of the bladder. And so it's really cool stuff. And so, think about, is there a gut issue, a microbiome issue that's allowing for the bugs to grow out of control, things like that. So, sorry, I had to throw it in there.
No, I super appreciate that. I am all about adding in supplements where they can provide the best help, and this will be useful both for pet and family.
Yeah,
so thank you.
Good. Yeah, you're welcome. Good probiotics for your dogs. All good stuff. So perfect. Okay. So, what am I grateful for today? I'm going to say this as quickly as I can because I don't know that I can linger on it, but I'm grateful for my mom. She's an amazing person and has been there my entire life. And she might be leaving us soon. So I'm grateful that I have the ability to be her daughter. And I'm going to stop. It's one of those things that we all have to go through, and it's just not fun. And I wasn't ready for my time. So
transitions are so hard.
They are hard.
Especially with those who we love. And again, so much gratitude for their presence. And boy, the exit's such a challenge.
It is. It is. And thank you for kind of bringing me out of that a little bit, because I need to be brought out of it a little bit. I was like, I can do this. I don't have to cry. Oh, yeah, I'm going to cry. All right. So let's talk about you and all the amazingness that you bring to the world. I want to know a little bit about, or as much as you want to tell us, about who you are, all the things that you do, what gets you excited, what motivates you, what brought you to this place you are now, do you want to go, all of the amazing things, because I love what you do.
Well, thank you. Well, so let's see. I'll do the condensed version. I started off in science. My background is as an occupational therapist.
Oh, nice.
And got really tired of being in the space where people were already sick. And then I was trying to help heal after some catastrophic illness. And of course, these things happen, and it's good to have resources, but it was something I needed to move through. And so as I was doing that, I was having a family of my own and having a few challenges. So I ended up doing a specialty program in health and wellness. Started to jump into all things alternative health, alternative wellness, although I hate that word alternative because I'm sure you and I could soapbox on that for a little while.
Oh, yes.
Right. Alternative, what's mainstream, let's say it that way.
Yeah.
And really got interested in mind-body and started working in the area of women's health, working with women who were trying to get pregnant, stay pregnant. And that has been such a joy. It is. I have up here on my wall, I have a bunch of babies up here.
Amazing.
So, that was really amazing. And yet at the same time, I was going through some financial challenges. There were a number of things happening. My husband was unemployed for a number of years. We had medical bills without insurance, blah, blah, blah. And yet what I started to realize was that that's not really what was going on. And I came to that conclusion after meeting the lovely Jennifer Arezio, who we've already spoken about today, and learning about this paradigm of soul language. And what I began to understand was it wasn't just mind body that I wanted to be following for myself personally and teaching, but it was really mind, body, soul. We've got to include that essence of who we are. And what I realized was, as we were going through these financial challenges, going through a bankruptcy, was that it wasn't about not enough money. It was about the fact that I was not really willing to be seen and heard. And it's really hard to run a business when
Yeah,
you don't
yeah.
want to be seen and heard, right? And so I started adding in this component of soul to both my work in the fertility world, and then I also began bringing it out to, I work mostly with women entrepreneurs. A few really good-hearted men in there as well seem to be attracted to the kind of work that I do. And it's just been a really fun ride to surrender a bit, follow where I was being led. But the soul piece is just so juicy, and
Yeah.
it gets to what you were saying at the beginning, right? We are all different, and then when we can embrace our differentness ourselves first, makes it a lot easier to be accepted out in the world.
So I wanted, just because I'm super curious about when you work with women in fertility. I work a lot with women and fertility issues as well, and so I'm curious, just on a personal level, personal and business level, what it is you do, how you do it. It would be interesting because you have your piece of it. That some of that co-management, because I don't have. I'm not. I can talk mindset, but I don't have a lot of good tools, and I love being able to find people who can give those good tools.
Beautiful, right? So usually the people who find me have been through the ringer.
Yeah.
They've been after it for a while, and so right, there's all kinds of emotions that come along with not being able to get pregnant or stay pregnant, right? And it's the dreaded word stress. That's such a garbage trash term, right? Like all the emotions are tucked into there. So what I do is I do energy healing work. I do mindset shifting to work at the level of the emotions. That's the place where we start with, because when there's constant stress, anxiety, depression, worry, sadness, we're putting ourselves, as I'm sure you know, right? Our cells can either be in growth mode or they can be in fear mode. And so those emotions tend to create fear mode in cells, shuts things down. And of course, fertility is not one of those things that the body thinks it needs to sustain when it's in fear mode. So it's about really looking at what's happening today. How is this journey with fertility impacting me? But then also looking at, because we can have both emotions springing from current conditions, but then we also have this layer of belief in our body, things that we learned growing up, things based on our experience, even depending on what your view structure is, and mine is, right? It starts in the womb. It actually even starts pre-generation, right? We carry these beliefs in our matrilineal DNA. So it's about uncovering some of these patterns that might be creating internal stress in the body. Maybe you learned from your parents that having kids ruined a relationship, and that was something that you took on at a subconscious level very early on. Well, here you are now trying to create a family, and you have this amazing partnership that you don't want to lose. So your body, your brain at the subconscious level is saying kind of danger, danger, and again creating these things that can in turn impact the reproductive system.
Yeah, go ahead if you were going to finish. Yeah.
But so then one last piece here is the soul, and this is what really surprised me when I started when I started doing it. It surprised me. Now it doesn't surprise me at all. So when we look at who we are at a soul level, if we are living outside of who we really are, again, another layer of internal stress. And the thing I love about soul language is it gives us who we are. It gives us a mission language. It gives us a skills and tool language and a soulful personality. And what I have found with my clients is when they get in alignment with that soulful personality, things start changing in their body. And it again, it's of course, because that's an internal stressor if we're living opposite to who we really are. But it's amazing when you think about something as intangible as the soul can create such a impact on our physical apparatus.
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the things that I was thinking as you were talking, especially when you were talking about, essentially you were talking about epigenetics, right?
Correct.
Which if any of you watched the show at all, I love epigenetics. It's one of the most amazing, fairly new science, that's being researched right now. But, and a lot of what I talk about is, how epigenetics can impact detoxification. It can impact, nutrients and metabolic pathways and that kind of thing. But especially when it comes to fertility, what I try to get across to people is the fact that it's so important for us to be as healthy as we possibly can, physically, mentally, and emotionally, because those epigenetic genes pass on and can be passed on. They're showing 7 generations. And so think about that, and think about where you are in 7 generations prior to that point. There are trauma genes. There are, all genes that our grandmothers and most of our grandmothers passed on to us that make us who we are now. It's just the most incredible thing. But we have, my I guess one of my favorite taglines anyway is we do have control over our genetic destiny, because epigenetics is lifestyle. It is the traumas, it's the emotional stress, it's the physical, the mental, it's the movement, it's the food and environmental toxins and the stuff that we put on our body and in our body. It's all of the things that we have so much control over, and can then take that and start creating or begin or restart. We've got a lot of unhealth going on, but start creating again these healthy generations by making sure that when we are in that creation space, when we're trying to have babies, that we do the very best we can, because we want to have a successful baby with a successful life. And it's so important that we take care of ourselves as best we possibly can. So anyway, I love epigenetics.
It's really fascinating, isn't it? It's just an amazing field.
It is. And we're learning so much. And there's still, it's hard to imagine what we still don't know, because there's so much. All right, very cool. So let's talk a little bit about, what it looks like. So I have my notes here, and I have, soul money relationship. And what is it when people come to you? Are they coming to you just because I guess, what is it that makes them come to you besides the fertility? Because we talked about that. Is it so you said it's the entrepreneurs, the people who are kind of stuck is what I see, is people who realize they're stuck and they need to figure out how to get unstuck.
So I see two categories of people. The first is they're really stuck. They've been doing all the things that they think they're supposed to be doing, both from a marketing perspective, right? The real business kind of side of things. There are people who are really savvy in the mindset world. They've done a lot of things, and things still aren't changing.
Yeah.
And like, what the heck? I'm making the same amount of money no matter what I do. So that's one category of people. The other category of people who tend to show up are those who have they're really successful, they're movers and they're shakers, and they are burnt out, and they want to create the same amount of abundance flow with a lot less work. And it's not about, passive revenue or although there's all those kinds of things that people could talk about. That's not where my wheelhouse is. But when you really understand the relationship that you're in with money, and you really understand the roots of money and how money actually flows to us, we can start to work with it as opposed to against it. And so those are the two categories of people that tend to find my work helpful.
Awesome. And so what does it look like? What does it look like to work with you? What do people, I guess I just don't even know. I have in my head, I think, therapists and things like that. So I think you have programs and probably steps that you put people through.
Exactly. So the foundation of the work is, again, I've said it about 3 or 4 times, I'm going to say it again, soul language, right? I'm going to start sounding like an ad pretty soon.
But sometimes you have to be repetitive, right?
And actually, even before we get there, it's really helping people understand that it is a relationship. We tend to think about money as transactional, right? I put in my 40 hours, I get a paycheck, or I want this grocery basket full of groceries, so I'm going to pay somebody. And that we don't really think about it beyond that. But the thing is that money is relational. Money at its origins is a physical, tangible tool of divinity. And we allow or disallow flow of money based on our connection with the divine. So the very foundation, the first thing we do when we work together is to understand, yes, I'm in this relationship. It's a relationship between myself, the divine, and money. And I'm the one who's I'm in the driver's seat. But I think a lot of times we tend to think that money's in the driver's seat. We think, oh, if I just do this, if I'm just good enough, if I just work hard enough, if I just earn it, then money will come to me, right? It's sort of this us versus it. And that's not it at all. So the first step is to really say, okay, and understand, yeah, I'm in the driver's seat. So then, in any good relationship, we get to understand ourselves first, right? If you want to extend your partnership with somebody, doing all that self-growth for yourself is really what's going to make the relationship grow, right? So then the first step is we identify your personal soul languages. And then the other really cool thing about soul language is that part of this paradigm says anything we're in relationship, whether it's with someone else, with our business, with our health, with the divine, or with money, we brought 3 additional languages to support ourselves in that relationship. So then we go ahead and identify the soul money relationships. And from there, you get to understand, this is who I am when I'm in connection in the relationship, and this is who I am when I'm disconnected. And it's usually that disconnected place that is creating all of the issues. Because when we do that, we tend to live from pattern, we tend to live from ego, that part of ourselves that wants to keep us healthy, whole, and safe. And a lot of us grew up with either sort of dysfunctional money habits or patterns or understandings of money, or we learned this very capitalistic idea of you work hard and you don't deserve anything unless you prove yourself or earn. And as that's part of our makeup, that's how our life goes. So it's really about identifying the patterns and rewriting them to be able to step into this relationship, this however you want to write that new relationship with money. Because as the leader, and as the only one with free will, the divine doesn't have free will, it follows you. Money has no free will, it's going to follow you. You're the one that's creating the rules. So the work is to do the mindset. Mindset is a good word for it, I suppose, but do that part of the work so that you can be in the flow the way you want to be.
Interesting. So I have a question for you that is my intent is not to go crazy deep with it, but I can't help but to ask the question. Because as a Christian, I believe the divine. I follow the divine. I follow God, but God is within me and we work together. And so I'm curious just what your thought is around that.
Yeah, absolutely. So that is your relationship with the divine, right? Okay. And that is the part, that is one of the pieces of the relationship. And there are a lot of ways to say, if I am deeming, so I'm going to take a step to the side here and say, part of this relationship is our relationship with ourselves.
Sure.
So if I deem myself unworthy, if I deem myself as not good enough, I put my hand up to God, right? Yep. Mm-hmm. You and God are there in that relationship. God is always flowing to you. Divine is always flowing to you. Mm-hmm. But we kind of set those rules to say, no, I'm not enough. I'm not worthy.
Right.
And again, it's not words we're using necessarily. Yeah. It's more of a feeling state, things that we've thought about. And so then we cannot accept the goodness that is meant to be ours.
Gotcha. No, that makes perfect sense. Thank you for that.
Yeah.
Something that we were talking about a little bit ahead of time was, how we come together as healthcare practitioners in our own way, and how so often it's coming from what it's inadequacy or not having enough, and how we've grown up with. So specifically, we're talking about food, and how when we grow up without enough food, how that can move through our lives as we age and as adults, and create that continuous lack or feeling of lack, and well, yeah, it's that feeling of lack. How do you address something like that? What are your thoughts?
Right. So I think that, that not enough can come literally, right? Not enough food, not enough money, not enough resources, whatever the resources were.
Mm-hmm.
And it can also come from a belief structure of, I haven't done enough.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not good enough for those people in my life.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not worthy of that attention. And when we are in that space of not enough, it doesn't feel good. And usually, as humans, when something doesn't feel good, we try to block it, right? It's harder to do the internal work to figure out what that hole feels like. And so we tend to fill it. We can fill it with food.
Mm-hmm.
We can fill it with, if you're somebody, one of the habits that people have is, I don't feel good. Well, let's do a little shopping. Right? Let's do a little retail therapy.
Yeah.
Nothing wrong with retail therapy, unless it's the thing that's keeping you from the amount of abundance that you want, right? Right? So we can start looking and seeing that there's these patterns that pop up. Or, the person who, not feeling great, so I'm going to get the ice cream. I'm going to get the things that intellectually I know don't feed me, but seem to fill that hole in a certain way. So we can start to look at these overall patterns and places in our life, like, oh, and you just kind of start to connect the dots.
Yeah.
And then the antidote to it, of course, is then to come back to our core beingness, our core, who we really are, because at our core, we are whole and complete.
I love that.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
And of course, it takes learning and figuring things out. It's not a light switch kind of moment. But on the other hand, when we do know that, and we have tools to know that, it makes things a lot easier.
Yeah.
We can start filling those holes in more functional ways.
I love that. So what would be just an example of good functional ways of filling? Say you do go after the sweets. Lots and lots of people do. No matter their health status, it's like, okay,
right.
I'm going to reward myself, or this is just what I want, is a sweet treat. So what is it, once you have that realization, how can you fill it?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So at its most basic, the thing that I have found, and I grew up outside of religion, not for any reason other than my parents were two different faiths, and their answer to it was to not include it in life. So isn't that, and that's fine. That's how it was. And it was fine. And we're spiritual, but not necessarily religious. But what I love about this connection with soul is that it's always the answer. So when you're feeling like there's something needed, when you're just not quite filling up, my answer is, what fills your soul? And okay, well, let me say one more thing, and then I'll go back to what I was just going to say. I skipped a step. Because, when you do that, so for me, nature, hands down, that's how I fill up. I'm here in Minnesota. It doesn't matter the weather, whether it's snowing, whether it's hot and humid, it doesn't matter. I have to get outside. Now, in order for that to be effective with, like, say, I'm somebody who has a tendency to want something sweet, you have to be proactive about it.
Sure.
You have to do the filling up first.
Yeah.
And put a priority on what really fills me. Because if you wait too long, again, I am speaking completely from experience, if you let that tank empty, that self-nurturing tank empty, then there's very little to draw on in that moment. It's like that, forget it. I'm just going to have that, whatever it is, even though I know that it's not the best thing for me.
Yeah, I think it's interesting as as entrepreneurs, and as you said, speaking from experience, is that's what we tend to do. Is we tend to just go without. And I do this. I get to the point, and I'm getting better about it, but I get to the point where I've been behind my computer for hours. I have to do a lot of research. I work with clients. I'm building, have just built and launched a course, co-created a course. And it's this. There's so much that you feel like you have to do, especially as an entrepreneur. You're wearing 400 different hats. You're like, I don't have time to go outside and meditate. I don't have time to go play frisbee with the dogs. When really, if we would just freaking get up and do it, the time's gonna be there, and it's gonna make you a happier person.
Right, and quite honestly, when we make the time for it, this is going to sound like a slogan, but it makes time for us.
Oh, I love it. That's a good slogan.
Right, right. And so, and here's the thing: is that when we take the time to, whether your cup of tea is to meditate, get out in nature, just sit quietly, listen to music, whatever it is, play frisbee with the dog. What you're doing is you are creating that connection between you and divinity, between you and God, whatever word you want to use for it. And when you do that, you go into what I think of as a receiving mode. Yeah. When we're in front of our computer, when we're, and again, we have to do it because that's part of the job. Sure. But when we get in the mindset of we make things happen, and so doing is the most important thing, it's only a small sliver of the picture. So, for example, I write a newsletter, right? It's part of business. I write a newsletter every week, and I have had times where I've sat at the computer and like, what am I going to write about this week? What am I going to write about this week? And I sit there for half an hour staring at the screen. It's ridiculous because I'm clearly not in the flow. But if I go outside and I walk around for 10 minutes, the answer comes. I was like, oh yeah. Then I'm back 15 minutes later. Bing, bang, boom, it's done and it's out. Yeah. So giving ourselves permission to get into more of a being state, that's going to allow us to be in a space of receiving. And it's more effective, it's more time effective, and we tend to do and be who we really are at that essential level instead of whatever persona that we're putting together as we're fast forwarding and doing and doing and doing and doing.
Yeah. I love that. I'm an outside person as well, and I gave the example of the dogs because I've got 3 girls and they frisbee. They love the frisbee. They love to be outside. If I go toward the door, they're running outside, and it truly just makes me so happy just to watch them play and run and chase each other. And so what I have found and what I tell people is find your favorite place. So I'm specifically right now talking about meditating. I have a very up and down relationship with meditation. I'm great and then I'm not great. But my favorite thing to do though is when it's sunny and beautiful outside is to go outside, put on shorts and a tank top, and just let the sun cover as much skin as possible. For one, it's just healthy, right? We need that vitamin D. The sun converts vitamin D in the skin. But for 2, it's the warmth, it's the calm, it's being outside. It's one of the best things I have found that I can do for myself. And then another thing we talk about a lot is grounding. Get outside and walk on the ground. Walk in your house. Walk with your bare feet if you can. We walk with these rubber soles, and it kind of it stops that energy flow because we're electromagnetic. Either way. Yeah. We're electric people. And we have to, we get energy from the earth and from the sky and from the sun. And so I have to walk in the front yard because we don't always pick up, the dogs have 3 dogs. They poop all the time. But walking around the front yard in my bare feet, I just love it to death. And so anyway, and I know I say this, this is not my specialty, but it's those simple things that I think can make such a big difference for mood, for mindset, for, like you said, opening up and allowing the goodness to come in, and to be creative and to be abundant and all all of the things that are so important in just having a good, healthy life and lifestyle.
Yeah, without a doubt. And I think that, we get very focused on one thing. We get focused on the goal. I want to make this much money. I want my body to feel this way. And really, we want to open up to that whole experience of abundance,
Yep.
that whole experience of prosperity. We want to live a life that is whole, as opposed to just what does a bank account look like, and can I retire, or right? It's just that tunnel vision leads to not very pleasant individual days, and that's how we live, right? We live with those individual days.
Yeah, and it just creates more stress, right?
Right,
Yeah,
right,
kind of
absolutely.
nasty cycle.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And I've done that cycle. I burnt out my adrenals 2013.
Okay.
It was a rough way to learn that lesson.
Yeah, it's a hard one.
It is, and I'm still physically recovering from it. It's been, a long time, but I'm getting there. And I would like to, keep other people from having to learn it that way.
Yeah.
Right?
It's a tough one. When your adrenals are like, okay, I'm done, I'm out, it can be a little bit hard to keep going and to get all the things done that we have to do in life. So I should probably stop for a minute and take a quick break and talk about Cellcore Biosciences, they are a fairly new sponsor, and I love what they're about. They are a super innovative approach to dealing with chronic conditions and allowing the body to detoxify and rid itself of pathogenic microbes. They are working really closely with really chronic diseases like Lyme disease, Parkinson's, and things like that. The thing to remember is diseases really are symptoms. It's the body talking to us, and they can continue to get more and more chronic. Or if we give the body the ability to balance and repair, then a lot of times we'll see symptoms either become less and less and less, or maybe even go away, depending on what your situation is. But I love who they are. They work with bioactive carbons, which is unique in the industry, and they do tons of research. They've got lots of data to back them up. In nutraceuticals, having good data is really difficult because it's very, very expensive. And when, there are a couple of companies, Cellcore being one of those companies now, that they spend the money in order to gather the data so they can support the practitioner and support the practitioner's clients and patients. So great company. You do have to get the supplements through a practitioner. I am a practitioner, but there are a lot of really great practitioners out there using Cellcore Biosciences. So check them out, look them up. If you love to research and you're a data nerd like I am, then check out the data, because it's pretty cool stuff. And I'm excited to continue learning more about them. They're still fairly new to me. We have a conference coming up here in a couple of weeks that I'm super stoked about going to. So anyway, really, really great company. So thank you, Cellcore, for all that you do. Okay, so let's talk about, what do we want to talk about? I don't know. You have some pretty amazing programs, and I was looking at the services that you provide. You have a number of programs that you provide. You want to talk a little bit about those? And I mean, I know that you work mostly, and I know I'm being repetitive, but with entrepreneurial women and a few men. But what are the services that you provide? Like, I can't even talk. Goodness gracious! I'm just gonna let you talk.
Sounds good. Sounds good. Yeah. So I offer a couple of different programs. I offer a program that's called Prosperity Momentum. And this is really good for someone who wants to start to work with their money and work with this relationship with money in a new way, but wants to do it in a really specific container of time. we always have goals. We have things that we want to focus on, things we want to change, and we say we want to change them, and then life happens, because that's just what happens.
Yep.
But what I have found is that when you really add that container of time to one of your goals, it makes a huge difference. So this program is called Prosperity and Momentum. It's a 30-day program. I offer it several times a year. And what I do is I teach a 6-step connection that is a sacred practice that you can do on a daily basis that allows you to deepen into your relationship with money, and to start to broaden it, to expand it, to start that process of creating the momentum that will now create changes in your bank account. So that's one way that I work with people. And then I have a brand new program that I'm really excited about called Receive. And we start with again the foundation of soul languages. You're learning about yourself, and you've got a relationship with divinity, so you get to learn about the languages that support you in the divine, and learn how to open and receive. It's funny, so many of us are more comfortable giving than we are receiving. And it makes for a lot of hard work, and again, I'm not opposed to put my hours in.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, if I can allow things to flow to me in an easier way, that gives me a whole new way to work in the world. So within that program, we look at both your receiving container is the word. So how have you built within your system the ability to receive, and then the muscle that goes along with it. So for example, I was working with a client, and in the precursor to this program, and she said, my receiving muscle is really stringy. It's really unused. She's much more comfortable in the giving part of it, and she does amazing things. She works with animals, and just has amazing support in her community, and yet to receive back is hard for her. So then the work is, how do we strengthen that muscle? What beliefs can you let go of? What beliefs can you bring in that's going to support you in this ability to receive? So those are a couple of my favorite programs. But it occurs to me, I've been talking about soul language so much, and I haven't really given an example of what that is. So how about if I do that?
Yeah.
Because I think that'll help, right? So for example, as I said, with our personal soul languages, we have a mission language, we have a skills and tools language, and we have a soulful personality. So for me, my personal mission language is called Pioneer. And what's really cool about that language, when you're in connection, you're helping both yourself and other people build new pathways. When you're disconnected, you might end up starting like 20 different projects, 20 new roads.
Yeah.
You might end up not wanting to do new things. And what was so important for me when I learned that is, like I said, I started out as an occupational therapist, I moved into fertility, and then into abundance, and there was this part of me that's like, why can't you stick with something? Right? What's going on here? I knew the thread, but why can't you stick with something? And it was, it was something I thought about all the time, but I kind of beat myself up about it. Well, Pioneer, right? That's who I am. I was able to claim that in a much stronger way, and really own it and say, yeah, that is who I am. And I can even as I say it today, I can feel all those old parts of me that used to spend a lot of energy sort of covering that up, or where I would feel stress and tension. I don't feel that anymore. Now, on the other hand, my personal skills and tools language is called Hunter-Huntress. And that particular language describes somebody who's known as somebody who can track things down and get things done. Okay. And that is who I am. But on the flip side, when you do too much of it, you can make yourself sick. Yeah. Right? Yeah. So being able to see both sides of that and understanding that whole cycle allows me to own the parts that work really well. And then when I'm operating more out of pattern, I recognize it and say, okay, this is part of me that is out of balance. So we do that exact same thing with your soul has a way it likes to be with money. So you learn those languages again can help you understand, okay, I'm operating in connection here, or oh, wait a minute, nope, I'm disconnected. And it's simply a matter of reconnecting with yourself, reconnecting with the divine. So that's a little bit deeper dive into the foundation work that goes into whatever program that I offer. And I also do one-on-one work with people who just really want to kind of get in and make some changes, or know they have a particular habit around money that they don't like. And I have a whole number of tools. I'm a EFT practitioner.
Oh, yeah, great.
Yep. So there's a number of tools that I use then to help to create those internal shifts that then create the external change in your bank account.
Would you explain EFT a little bit?
Yeah, of course. So EFT, fantastic technique. And it's built in Chinese, it's built under the philosophy of Chinese medicine that says that our systems, our energy is organized into lines, meridian lines. And the premise is that of EFT is that anything that we're experiencing that is negative, whether it's negative emotion or negative physical, or something physical, something emotional, is due to a blockage in one of those meridian lines. So when you tap, you're tapping on the ends of the major meridian lines in the body, and you're also adding language. So you're telling the body what it is you want to release. And through that process of speaking and tapping on the different acupressure points, you're able to dislodge whatever is causing that disruption, and that issue leaves. So the other piece of it is that, you're really working at the level of the subconscious. Yeah. You're in there and you're making changes, so you can both release out of the subconscious and you can input in what it is that you want. So it's not just taking out the old beliefs, but actually being able to input those new beliefs as well.
So I want to tell a quick story because I have a little bit of experience with this. It's not my own experience; it's my husband's experience. Where my sweet husband is this is way not up his alley. Yeah. Way not up his alley. But he had a little bit of trauma. He had some stuff going on. He was starting a business, and there were things that he wanted to work on and needed to work on, and an opportunity came up where it's a little bit similar to what you do. I didn't realize that until probably just now, but she worked with him, and she did the EFT technique with him. And one of the coolest things is it was him dealing with this pretty significant trauma. It was as an adult, and it was one of those things that was really, really difficult for him to let go. Well, he couldn't let go of it, and it sat on him, and it ate at him, and it ate at him, and it ate at him, and it was not good. And he did this, and I think it was just after the first session, and he did several sessions of the EFT as well as all of the other stuff, but he came home to me, he's like, it's gone.
Yeah.
I don't feel anything about that like I did anymore. And I was like, what? It was so interesting, and the memory is still there, and all of that. But how would you explain it? Is the emotional connection to it maybe is gone?
Exactly right. That's exactly it. We're not changing history.
Yeah.
We're not making something go away, and you still can think about it. But if you could imagine telling it as a story that's just and then this happened, and then this happened.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, I just recently worked with a client who had extreme trauma. Her brother took his own life when she was a young girl. And, 20, 30 years later, it still, of course, was impacting her. But what she knew was it was impacting her beyond what it should, in quotes. I mean, what should in this case, right? But as we worked through that memory, she can now tell the story of that day without tears, without that terrible sense of trauma. And it's just it's a technique that shouldn't work. You look at it and you think, what the heck? right? But it's based on Roger Callahan's TFT, thought field therapy, and that came out of a woman who had such extreme water phobia that she couldn't even like be in the shower.
Oh God.
And and through the work that he did, he was interested in Chinese medicine, and he understood the body in that way. And what he found was when he tapped on a certain place, which is the end of the meridian for the stomach line, which is where in Chinese medicine fear resides.
Mm-hmm.
She tapped under here, and she's able to go put her feet in the water down at a local pool. It's one of those techniques that you have to experience to understand it, but it is unbelievable what you're able to ease and disconnect and to allow your body to let go of all of the resources that it's using to guard that particular memory or right, because it's hard when we have that trauma in our beings.
Yeah, and I think that what I find so interesting too is even, because a lot of times I feel like, well, you have to be open to it for it to work, right? And again, my husband was like, whatever, I'll do it, okay. And he liked this therapist, right? And she was a therapist, but she does all these other things as well. And and he's like, it was like that quick, and he was like, okay, I'm a believer. And he'll still do it to this day on his own. He'll do he's got his meditation and his stuff that he does downstairs. And oh man, I wish I could tell you the world of change that this man has been through over the last few years. It's interesting when you can sit back and watch somebody grow and develop. You're like, wow, this is amazing, and become this amazing person.
Yeah, absolutely. It is a tool. I have 3 children who are all adults now. I don't know how I would have parented without it.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, my kiddos tend towards anxiety. And so, my oldest daughter was like right in on it. She's like, Mom, this is great. I'll let it, teach it to me.
Yeah.
Let me teach it to all my friends. And my youngest is like, oh God, Mom, really? You and your stuff again. Right? But she is witness to that. You don't have to believe in it.
Yeah, right. It just works.
But it's what I love about it. Then the reason why it became such a prominent part of my practice is because there are things that you need a practitioner for.
Sure.
If you are diving into some deep trauma, you need a practitioner to do that. But if you are dealing with day-to-day anxiety, if you are dealing with insomnia, if you're there's so many different things that in the moment you can do it, right? Because emotional hits don't come just when you can talk to your practitioner or your therapist.
Right.
2 a.m. in the morning, and you need to be able to do it. And it's something we can all do on our own.
Yep.
The reason for the practitioner, if you're dealing with something that is painful and dissociation, all of that, you really need somebody who's practiced. But the way that Gary Craig, who's the founder of this, talks about issues is, so let's say somebody wanted to change they wanted to eat better, right? That was their goal. Well, just tapping on eating better doesn't get at the issue. You can think of eating better as, if you think about it, the analogy he uses as a table. So the tabletop is eating better. And then what's supporting all the different legs what's supporting the table are all these different legs, which are individual pieces of the puzzle.
Right.
I learned to always clean my plate. I was always given a sweet when I was unhappy. I was yelled at for being too fat, right? All of these different pieces. And with EFT, you get to go in and you get to pull out these, you get to address each individual issue. And at some point, there's nothing left to support it, and then the issue falls. So a practitioner can help you find all of those different legs that can help you then get to the point where your issue either leaves, that's what you want, or you've stepped into something new.
Yeah, that is a really great way of putting it, because we have our habits that are created by multiple ways. Our habits, our beliefs, our disbeliefs, all those things, but many things are involved in, just as I was saying earlier, in who we are and what we believe and why we believe and what our body is doing, what it's about. So much involved there. And to have somebody who can help you dig that out is is a blessing, because that's just not the stuff. At least I can speak for myself and know that that's just not the stuff that I can do on my own. I need help digging into that stuff and figuring stuff out.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And one last little piece about soul language here.
Yeah.
Related here is that once you know your languages, it's not an archetype. It's not just a description on a piece of paper. This is a living, breathing piece of consciousness. So I can have a conversation with that part of me that is pioneer. So let's say I'm having a fear about creating a new program. I can relax, just like you would do in a meditation, and connect, and I can talk to that part of my soul and say, hey, what's going on here? And pioneer will respond. It's just a really amazing tool that can help you get at things that are going on in your day-to-day life. And of course, again, if it's something big, well, what's big or small? Right, when it's something that maybe you can't put your whole arms around, yes, a practitioner is helpful to have that conversation, but then you have these ongoing parts of you that you get to just take with you, and you get to apply to all parts of your life. It's really an amazing paradigm.
Yeah, that's really cool. I mentioned a little while ago, and I forgot to even mention it further, but I will in a minute. But I've co-created this course, and part of, and I say this because it's kind of, it's so much of what you're saying is, in order us to be fully healthy, be fully fulfilled, to understand why our body's reacting to certain things, to food, to environment, to whatever, it's a matter of taking the time to learn your body and learn what's going on. And that's exactly what you're doing, is just at that much deeper level, is that understanding of the who and the why. You know, we can think we know who we are, but there's so much more. I know that there's so much more that I want to learn and need to learn about myself. When I think I'm, you know, I've been practicing nutrition at least on my own for, 30 years or whatever it's been. I think I'm pretty good, but I know that there's so much more that can be done, and so much more to learn, and on so many different levels. And it's one of those things you're like, okay, I'm going to do this one, then I'm going to do this one, then I'm going to do this one. I'm just going to keep learning.
We're expansive creatures, right? Yeah. We really are. We really are.
It's so true. Well, is there anything that you want to add? We only have, time always goes by so fast. We've got about 3 minutes. And I do want people to know where to find you, but I would love for you to, I want to make sure that you have said everything that is really important that people should know about. There's so much devastation and trauma out there that can be addressed, and I think it's important that people know that.
I agree. I would say that what I want people to really know is that abundance is our birthright. And whether you're talking abundance financially, whether you're talking abundance just in how we live our day-to-day lives, we put up with so much that we don't have to. Yeah. And so my invitation is to really allow yourself to receive that. And if there are spaces that are, you feel like you're hitting your head against the wall all the time, or you're in that same old rut, when you are able to know yourself in this new way, when you get to have some tangibility to the ineffable, it really allows you to receive the abundance that really is meant to be yours.
Yeah. I love that. We truly live in a universe of abundance, and it's so many of us who put those barriers and those fences up ourselves, and finding somebody who can help you knock those barriers down and be open to so much goodness, and as you said, abundance in so many different ways. Money is just one of the many ways of finding abundance, all of the things that I think just also having that mindset of abundance is just, it opens you up, and I just find it brings that happiness, just knowing there's so much out there, and I just have the ability just to take it all in. You just open it up, and when there's this posture, if you're open to so much and opening up, as opposed to Just constantly being closed off. I do find myself a lot of times I sit with my arms closed off like this, and I try to not do that. I try to sit with my arms open. Yeah, It's funny that I do that. I don't really know why, but I should talk to you and find out. All right, let's talk about where your website is, because I assume you do work with people online. Yeah?
I do.
Okay.
I do.
Yep.
So the abundance site is jenniferbloom.com, and
with an E.
you'll find with an E.
With an E.
Yep. Yeah, that's right. And on that front page, you're going to find a soul money relationship quiz.
I love that.
So
I love that.
Yeah, so it's a great first introduction to understanding the relationship. It's going to tell you which one of the aspects of the relationship is a little bit out of sync, that could use a little bit more love, and it gives you an exercise to be able to start to shift and change that. I'm also on Instagram, Sold Out Abundance. That's a great place. If anybody has questions, just DM me. I'm more than happy to send resources your direction. And then since we spent time talking about fertility, that website is Anji, ANJI, online.com. And there's also a couple of free goodies over there. There's a being fertile meditation. There's this a really great presentation, if I can say that about myself, about the science of being fertile and why it makes such a difference. And then I'm also Anji_fertility on Instagram. That's brand new. So just starting that conversation over there. So those are the best places to find me.
You know what? Doing this show, I meet some of the coolest freaking people. And I'm going to check out because I didn't know anything about the fertility stuff until the interview just now. So I want to check that out. I want to follow you on Instagram. I want to take your quiz. I think that's super cool. So go take her quiz. Be open to the abundance that is surrounding us. And, and be grateful for that. Being grateful right now in a time where there's a lot of turmoil can really just help to start to push forward this movement of gratitude, of health, of giving, of allowing for goodness, and keeping out the mess and the junk that just keeps continuing to bring us down. Don't let it bring you down. So I am Taste Life Nutrition on all social media. So you can go to my website, tastelifenutrition.com. I have a free assessment that you can fill out there. I'll reach out to you personally, and we'll chat about it. And if we need to, if there are small changes we can make, great. If there are big changes, then we can talk about what it would look like if you want to work with me. The course that I've co-created with Dr. Lynn Tran McDonald, who is another show host, is called Body Bliss. And so what I would love is for any of you who are interested in what we call it Body Bliss Lifestyle Design for the Busy Woman. So it is for women, but it's for the entrepreneur, the working mom, the powerful women who are out there working their tails off to make a difference in the world and have a little bit of something going on. Is it chronic pain? Is it fatigue? Is it GI dysfunction? Is it these things that don't allow us to be the best that we can be? And we want to offer support in this Facebook group. It's a free Facebook group. But then beyond that, Body Bliss is also a course that we've created. It's a 12-week lifestyle course that is that we're pretty proud of, and we're just launching. So check that out, and you can always ask questions on Facebook in the comments. This stream's live on Facebook. Reach out to me. Reach out to Jennifer. Let's start bringing in all of the goodness. So thank you for joining. And we'll see you in 2 weeks. See y'all. Thanks, Jennifer.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Yeah.